What's up, guys? D-Rock1992 here. For this next video and for my next About video, I know I haven't done one of these in a while, but I recently watched the film 300. You can see that review on the channel. And 300 had a lot of actors in it. Michael Fassbender, the famous actor, started his career. Well, didn't start his career, but he had an early film role in the movie 300. Actress named Lena Headey. She really shined in the movie as like kind of a secondary character. She did well in that role. But the big star of the film was Gerard Butler, and he is the guy that I'm going to be talking about here on my About video. Gerard Butler, he's interesting because he's done some action films. A lot of people know him for the action roles, but a lot of people also know him for romantic comedies. He's done his fair share of romantic comedies, and to put it simply, the romantic comedies have failed. They aren't, the stuff he's been in, it just hasn't been good, basically, according to, critics, box office, whatever. It just hasn't been that good. So he is an interesting case in that aspect. You would think he'd devote a lot of his time to action, action-type movies. But he must like those romantic comedies, and he must like being around attractive women like Jennifer Aniston, Katherine Heigl, and all the other women he starred with. But without further ado, let's get into his career. And in 1997, he started his career with his first ever movie, a movie called Mrs. Brown. It was a British drama, a British movie. But his American, if you can really, his big debut, his introduction, sort of, is the Bond movie Tomorrow Never Dies. And I've said it before and I'll say it again, Tomorrow Never Dies, I think, in my personal opinion, is the most underrated James Bond movie of all time. It just really is such a good movie with Pierce Brosnan in it. A Pierce Brosnan film. Not my favorite Pierce Brosnan film. Of course, it's GoldenEye. But Tomorrow Never Dies is number 2. Anyway, Gerard Butler in this movie has a role, basically, that is, you blink once and you miss him. Very small role. Very, very small role. But if you see it, if you study it, you'll see him in the role. I haven't personally seen him to kind of recognize him, but he is in it, and he is one of the many actors that have gotten their starts, and that have gotten starts on Bond films. Dolph Lundgren, the famous 80s action star, he started his career in the Bond movie A View to a Kill. And he had a role as well that was blink once and you miss him. So Tomorrow Never Dies was really the first big movie that he was in. So between 98 and 99, he was in a few movies, a few different movies. But in 2000, he started getting a bit of exposure with Dracula 2000, an adaptation of course, the famous vampire Dracula. An action horror film, they called it. And he played Dracula. And, let's see. Yes, he played a dual role. Count Dracula / Judas Iscariot. Judas Iscariot, of course, in biblical times, in the biblical history, the one who betrayed Jesus Christ. And so Dracula 2000 was really sort of a big exposure for him. people sort of noticed him in this type of role. It was a box office. It really was a box office bomb, and critically, it didn't get great reviews. But he did get recognition for that role. Then you really kind of saw him get into his types of role. You really kind of saw him get more recognition. In 2002, he starred in the post-apocalyptic dragon film, Reign of Fire. Reign of Fire, the two lead actors are two great actors, Christian Bale and Matthew McConaughey. With Christian Bale, I mean, this was before Batman and all that, and this was after American Psycho. And Matthew McConaughey, I mean, this was before all of the... It was a pretty well-known name then, relatively well-known. But yeah, Gerard Butler had a small role in Reign of Fire, and so he did. I mean, the movie itself, it made money. On a $60 million budget, it made $82.1 million. And the reception for it, 40%, and so it is rotten, but not very, very rotten. But yeah, this was one of the first films, one of the other first big films that Christian Bale had a sizable role in. The next year, in 2003, he starred in Lara Croft Tomb Raider, The Cradle of Life. Now, in the Lara Croft series, there have been two Lara Croft movies. The first one I am drawing a blank on, but The Cradle of Life is the second of the Lara Croft Tomb Raider movies. Now, of course, Lara Croft was played by Angelina Jolie played Lara Croft in the two films. And Gerard Butler, again, had a sizable role in this film. And Lara Croft Tomb Raider Cradle of Life is an action film. So you really began to see him with his action chops, his type of action, the genre he is most successful in is action movies. And you really started to see it with Reign of Fire and Lara Croft Tomb Raider Cradle of Life. 2004, Gerard Butler has the leading role in The Phantom of the Opera. And The Phantom of the Opera is based on a musical. Actually, it is a British film adaptation of a musical of the same name, which is based on a French novel. Phantom of the Opera, it seems like one of those things you see on Broadway a lot, and things like that. Phantom of the Opera is very famous, and he has a starring role in the film. Really, one of his first starring roles in a film was that, along with Dracula 2000, were a couple starring roles for him. In 2005, he stars in the movie Beowulf and Grendel, a movie that I've heard of before. Another starring role for him, and this movie itself got mixed reviews, 53% on Rotten Tomatoes. But yeah, it is based on the Anglo-Saxon epic poem Beowulf. For those of you who know anything about Beowulf and that poem. I really don't have any clue about it, but I've heard of the movie, so that's probably why I've heard of it, but that's another one to mention that he had a starring role in. But the film I just mentioned was his breakout. This was the film that made him a big star, and that was 300. 300 is just such a breathtaking movie visually. I mean, It really is unbelievable. That's the highlight of the film, is that the visuals are amazing. 300 is based on a comic book series of the same name by famous graphic novel writer George Miller, and also based on the Battle of the 300, the Battle of Thermopylae, however you pronounce it. It was a battle between the Spartans and the Persians. And needless to say, history will show that the 300 did not survive. But they put up a great battle against a Persian army that numbered in the thousands. But anyway, Gerard Butler was magnetizing, very, very good as King Leonidas, the main character in the film, the leader of the Spartan army. It was just a perfect role for him. It really took advantage of his action chops, the action chops that he showed in earlier movies. And it really put him on the map. You know, a lot of people will remember, a lot of people who love the movie 300 would remember, probably remember the line he has, "This is Sparta!" That role, or that line, and probably a few other lines as well, but yeah, 300 really put Gerard Butler on the map, and it was just a breathtaking movie. See my review, definitely watch my review on 300. I give it rave reviews, definitely, needless to say. Also in 2007, you kind of see him get into romantic comedies. What I mentioned earlier in this video. And he stars in the movie P.S. I Love You with Hilary Swank. And it's a big box office success. It is actually a box office success, but it gets a 23% rating on Rotten Tomatoes. So this is like one of the big starts of Gerard Butler getting into romantic comedies. A famous movie that he was in was a movie called Rock and Rolla, one that I've heard of before. A British crime comedy film. And so another role that he was in, also in 2008, he stars in a movie called Nim's Island, which is a American-Australian family adventure, comedy, drama, and fantasy film, all in one. Excuse me. And so Nim's Island is another one. I don't really know much about these movies, but I've heard of them. In 2009, he stars in the movie The Ugly Truth with Katherine Heigl, one of the women that I did mention. The Ugly Truth, needless to say, was a big box office success. On a budget of $38 million, it made over $205 million. So it was a huge success financially. You know, two good-looking actors, a good-looking actress in Katherine Heigl, and a good-looking actor in Gerard Butler. It's bound to bring some audiences, it's bound to put some butts in the seat. But the movie got a 13% rating on Rotten Tomatoes. So there you go. Critics, obviously, they didn't like the movie. That's pretty much the big thing. In 2009, also 2009, he stars in the film Law Abiding Citizen. And Law Abiding Citizen is with him and Jamie Foxx. And it is a crime drama thriller film. This is more in the vein of Gerard Butler. This is more in the vein of what makes Gerard Butler a successful actor. Is kind of those action, crime dramas, you know, kind of the dramatic action type aspect. This is what makes him good. And Law Abiding Citizen actually is one that I would love to watch at some point. I'd love to see it at some point, and hopefully someday I will get to see it. But yeah, Law Abiding Citizen is another one. In 2010, Butler starred in the movie The Bounty Hunter with Jennifer Aniston. This is the one that a lot of people remember from him in terms of romantic comedies. This is kind of an action-type movie, and it's a romantic action comedy film. So it blends both of what he's been doing in the romantic comedy and the action film, and it blends it into one. And it could have been a big success, but it wasn't. No, it wasn't. 13% on Rotten Tomatoes, and it made money. It made the money, but it just didn't get the critical response. Critics hated the movie. I watched the movie myself, and this was a while back. I remember it being okay. I remember not hating it, but I also don't really remember a ton about it either. So, I mean, maybe that says something, but I just don't really remember it all that much. In 2010 also, as many actors do, Gerard Butler got into voice acting. And he voice acted in How to Train Your Dragon, the DreamWorks animated film. How to Train Your Dragon was a huge success over in the 90s on Rotten Tomatoes, and just a huge success. For critical response, 98% of critics, basically. So it was a huge success for DreamWorks, especially. And then in 2014, he did the sequel, How to Train Your Dragon 2. A lot of people think that movie's better than the first How to Train Your Dragon. Critically, I mean, it got a 92% on Rotten Tomatoes. And it was just a big success. Those two movies really, I know their voice, he's a voiceover, he voices over a character, but strong movies in his filmography, no doubt, though. In 2011, he did a film called Coriolanus, and it's an adaptation of a William Shakespeare play. It's a British film adaptation of Coriolanus, of his tragedy Coriolanus, and I mention it because it's kind of I hadn't really heard of it before until recently, but yeah, Coriolanus, it was a big success first off, and he kind of did something like it before with Phantom of the Opera, so it was nothing new to Gerard Butler. Oh, there you go. Let's see. He also was in a couple little action movies. Little type action movies. Machine Gun Preacher in 2011. Let's see here. Chasing Mavericks in 2012. Playing for Keeps in 2012, which is another romantic comedy film. And with this film, it got a 3% rating on Rotten Tomatoes. So it was horrible ratings, even though the cast was strong. Jessica Biel is known to some people. Uma Thurman, Catherine Zeta-Jones, Dennis Quaid. But the film just wasn't a success. 2013 was a pretty good year. It was a year of highs and lows, kind of. 2013, he starred in the movie 43. which has the distinction of having a 0% rating on Rotten Tomatoes. Critics hated this film. But the cast in this film is just spectacular. They got this, a lot of people, I mean, the people who wrote this film got a lot of people to be in this movie. They got Academy Award winners in this film. And, you know, great actors, other actors, comedic actors, all types of actors. They put them in this film. And needless to say, the movie did not do well at all. And it's regarded as one of the worst movies of all time. Also in 2013, though, here comes the high, however. He did Olympus Has Fallen. Olympus Has Fallen is one of my favorite action movies of all time. I love Olympus Has Fallen. Is it mindless action? Yes, it is. You better believe it is. Is it kind of, well, it's not really dumb per se, but maybe dumb in the fact that it is mindless action. And that's what I love about it. It is just such a good movie. If you don't know, I can describe the plot. I've seen the movie a couple times. Olympus Has Fallen is about an attack on the White House by North Korean terrorists. And one man, a former Secret Service agent of the President of the United States, one man against so many terrorists. Does that remind you of a movie in particular? Die Hard, for sure. It reminds you of Die Hard. It is kind of a carbon copy of Die Hard, except different circumstances. And I love it. I mean, it's got its own unique type of, feel to it. It is, again, it's such a great movie. I love it. It's not just him either. Morgan Freeman's very strong in the movie, as the Speaker of the House turned president. You know, Aaron Eckhart as the actual president is pretty good in the film. So Olympus Has Fallen. And then, next year, they're coming out with a sequel, which I'm really excited about, called London Has Fallen. And I know I've probably talked about it with Morgan Freeman, because I've done a video on him. But yeah, London Has Fallen is another movie that is going to be out, and I'm really excited. It actually was supposed to come out this year, but they changed it up to 2016. I was a little disappointed about that, but either way, I'm definitely going to see it. I'm definitely going to see it with my dad, because he really liked the film. He really liked Olympus Has Fallen as well. He really had a good time with that movie, as well as I did. So there you go. In 2014, he starred in... Actually, he didn't really star in the movie I'm going to be talking about next. Not really. But he kind of appears in flashbacks and whatnot. 300 Rise of an Empire. It is a movie that I am going to be reviewing, probably the next video. And Leonidas, it just shows him in flashbacks, basically, in reference to the 300. That Battle of Thermopylae and the massacre of the 300 men. So it isn't really a big role for him. I mean, it's... Technically, he's in the movie, but it's just flashbacks. He's got some movies coming up in the near future. He's got a film called Septembers of Shiraz, which has some pretty... Yeah, he's got a film called Septembers of Shiraz. He's a producer on the film. He's not starring in the film. But this movie has Salma Hayek, Adrian Brody, and a few other actors as well. So he's going to be in that film. He is going to be in the Peanuts movie. A movie about the Peanuts. Snoopy, Charlie Brown, and all the gang. They have their own film. I know I probably mentioned it in another video, but it is based on the classic comic strip by the comic strip and holiday specials by Charles M. Schulz. It comes out November 6th of this year, and he is a voiceover in the film. That's a film that's coming out. I mentioned London Has Fallen. Also, a couple of other films. He's going to be in a movie called Gods of Egypt. He's going to be in the movie with Chadwick Boseman, who's best known as Jackie Robinson in the movie 42, and James Brown in the movie Get On Up. Great character portrayals for him, and a couple other films as well. It looks interesting, definitely. It's an adventure, epic fantasy film. And the plot reads like this. The film portrays a conflict between the god Set, played by Gerard Butler, and Horus, played by Nicolás Coster-Waldau, probably butchered the name, as they battle for control of the Nile River Valley. So, it looks interesting. And then the next film that's coming out in 2016 is Geostorm. Geostorm has him and a couple of performances. Ed Harris is going to be in the movie, and Andy Garcia, a couple guys that I've heard of and all that. Ed Harris has been in a lot of films, and Andy Garcia has been in a few films as well. Geostorm. As a man heads into space to prevent climate-controlling satellites from creating a storm of epic proportions, his brother discovers a plot to assassinate the president. We could have another Olympus Has Fallen on our hands right here in Geostorm. Wow. So there you go. That is Gerard Butler's movie career, basically. I haven't really heard of anything else that he's going to be in per se. As for television, in 2001, he also got noticed as well in 2001 by starring in the TV miniseries Attila, about Attila the Hutt, a famous person in history. A famous person in history, and a guy who was a warrior. He took over a lot of lands back. He took over a lot of lands back when he was living, and which was long time ago, and I've heard he was quite, I've kind of heard he was quite brutal back in the day. He was not a nice guy, I think, anyway. But he portrayed Attila the Hun in a TV miniseries, Attila. And the other thing worth mentioning is that he hosted Saturday Night Live in 2009. He never really has... He has gotten into comedy before, but the romantic comedies. He hasn't been in an outright comedy in his career so far. He hasn't done that yet. So it'd be interesting to see if he does that. But that is it for the About video on Gerard Butler. So, hope you guys watch. That is it for this video. D-Rock 1992 out.